we met on our deployment. Oh, well, at least on
Yeah.
my first deployment, your second deployment. How was your deployment experience?
So I would say, like, granted, I deployed to the same place twice, so I
Mm,
was thinking it'd be the same experience all over again. But my first deployment, it wasn't as many of us. I would say like it was
mm,
probably only about 5 or 6 black people, and maybe not even that, maybe like 3 or 4 that we specifically hung out with each other.
yeah.
So it was a lot different. It was a smaller amount of us, and like going off base, that whole nonsense, it wasn't the same. So
Mm,
first time I went, you didn't even have to have a visa or nothing. You could just go. So
goodness.
that was, it was different, but it was a lot more control. Even like the hut parties, man. Like we probably only had 4 hut parties the whole 6 months, and they were
Mm.
epic for that time. But whereas the second go round, like it was good that I knew the base. I kind of knew everything already. Like, and I wasn't. I saved a lot of money because I wasn't geeked to necessarily go off base.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, it was different just because it was a lot more black people. It was a lot more people I related to, could talk to.
Mm,
I saved a lot more money. But as far as mental health wise, like it definitely took a deeper toll. Like
mm,
because it wasn't like the first time I didn't really have as many issues. Like I was cool, but
yeah.
that second go round, like FaceTiming my mom and my niece, like that shit was actually like
Mm,
weighing on me a lot more. So like they say, all money ain't good money. I don't know if I'll go on another one.
yeah.
So, but I was actually supposed to deploy a couple months ago, but they ended up getting canceled. So luckily, that's how that shit went.
Wow.
But yeah, it was different.
And I actually want to stay there for just a bit. So we talked earlier about you kind of having those secrets or those mental struggles. I personally, being someone who's around you a lot, me, you, Thomas, Chris, we was out there. Um, I did not have a clue whether or not you were struggling or not. From what I saw, and from the way I experienced you, it's just Carter. Carter, he turning up, he over there, he doing his thing. But there was never a moment that I thought, yo, he look like he's struggling, he going through something. Now I had my moments too, and it's a little bit more documented, mainly because I was making videos the entire time I was out there. So I
Mm.
had my moments where like Game of Thrones got me through I watched the whole series by myself for the most part. I was doing a lot of vlogs. So I was hyped to be in that region, so I was going off base trying to get as much footage as I can. Um, Emirati Palace, going to Dubai, all those things. So I had some good distractions, but for the most part, it was some ups and downs, but I didn't struggle that much. Um, but talk about your experience in regards to mental health, mainly because I had no clue, and I find it kind of interesting. I'm kind of glad that I know now, just so I know to check up on my people more often, because I do consider you an amazing friend, especially someone I met on my deployment. Like I've had some deployment opportunities as of late, and of course I missed them because of my mental health issues. But yeah, talk about your experience in terms of mental health and how you got through that.
So I definitely think it's a lot of one. I mean, and it sucks, right? But it
Mm,
was like the whole not wanting to be a burden thing because
mm,
I didn't necessarily feel like it was necessary for me to stop one of the group functions we have and like everybody trying to watch a hood movie. And I'm like, hey guys, hey, quick question. I just want to tell y'all I'm struggling at the moment.
yeah.
So I think a lot of it was just not wanting to be a burden. And I think trust played a lot into it because
Hmm.
at first, like, I was just like, and I mean, I don't even know if you remember, like, because we met, like, honestly, on the like packing the bags off or taking the
Yeah.
bags off the truck. But
Mm,
outside of that, I was real, like, when I first got there, at least, I was gym in the morning, work,
yeah.
eat, back to the room, and I'm like working on school, chilling, whatever. So I wasn't even trying to necessarily get out because that was my plan from the jump. I'm just trying to come in,
Mm,
wash my hands, do my job, and get the fuck on. But
mm,
so I would say trust, like, the not want to be a burden thing. And two, I mean, it was definitely the people around me. Like we had a lot of good vibes, whether it was me, you,
yeah.
Thomas, and Chris, me, Newton, and them. Like
Yeah.
anybody that was around, it was all good vibes throughout. Like it wasn't a lot of bad situations. And two,
Mm,
I was able to play a lot more of like I don't mind helping somebody work through their shit because this
yeah.
ain't my first rodeo. So I think it not being my first deployment and finding like I guess joy through other people that
Mm,
definitely helped. And it wasn't the best thing, but two, I was a lot more involved at home, so I was calling my folks a lot. Like seeing my niece was pretty much like that shit was boosting morale. Then I got some
mm.
Chick-fil-A Polynesian sauce in one of my care packages,
Ah,
and
see,
that
messed
and
around.
and some Snickerdoodle cookies. Them things
This
them things
package.
definitely helped out. So
That's
yeah, that
real.
was probably some of the things. And two, it was really like the sense of I ain't trying to be no burden on nobody else's life, man. Like, cause I know folks, a lot of folks were going through stuff out there. So
Mm,
whether it's back home, whether it's relationships, so or even there, like,
yeah.
cause I mean, as we seen, there was a lot of relationships folks had going on there. So it's like,
Mm.
if you beefing with your little short there, I ain't trying to throw some more stuff on you. But yeah, so I think those was some of the key factors, and just the ability, perks of the military to compartmentalize things and
Yeah.
only focus on them when you have to. And
Mm.
I was doing so much to the point where I'm not thinking about this at all. And if I am, my little anxiety spells, I'm just kind of working through them, or I'm leaving situations early because I know I'm tripping. Like, so anytime you just seen me dip off, it might have been because
Mm.
I'm going through whatever and I need to get up out of here without it looking like or I'm just leaving to leave. But
Right.
all, all of it looked the same.
When I was struggling the most, it showed up in them dusty cookies in that 24-hour defect. Like, I sneak around the corner up in that mud, and I just grab whatever I can carry back to the crib. And that was like, most people leave deployments jacked and lost 15, 20 pounds. I came back
Hmm.
30 pounds heavier. And even though I was hooping every single day, it was still, my vices appeared. And that's pretty much my only vice. Like, I wasn't huge on, I didn't drink for the first 3 months.
Yeah.
I think I drank in January, but just my vice is food, and so that's where I got my comfort from. And historically, that's why I've always got my comfort from food, even dealing with anxiety spells like cookies, pizza, junk. And so, first of all, acknowledging that and like, all right, how do I correct this, especially in this environment?
Hmm.
I mean, we're deployed, so I'm not sure how we're supposed to, deal with this type of thing outside of, like you said, calling family and those things. And I don't think I made a single phone call the entire 6 months to a family member. I was texting friends
Jeez.
here and there, but I don't think even you or Chris or Thomas really understand how much I kind of relied on y'all. Mainly because
Hmm.
like you had several groups that you kind of chill with. I had one, and it wasn't for lack of your efforts, because you invited me to the holiday party, you invited me to
I
like the
was.
the mystery gift thing, and I was on some bullshit where I'm like, nah, I'm good, man. I'm gonna focus on my videos and foolishness. But in hindsight, I'm like, and of course, things that I've learned since then, especially in my current position of saying yes to everything. That's how you make friends. That's how you get yourself in different spaces where organically I probably wouldn't be there. I probably wouldn't be
Hmm.
hanging out with people that played Dungeons and Dragons on the top floor of whatever building that was. But saying yes and just kind of get myself in different rooms. That's how I, as an introvert, that's my only way of getting out of myself and getting over myself. Is just saying yes, saying yes. So of course I practice that, going to different PCSing, what have you. 2 bases later, understanding as soon as I get to this base, my answer is yes to everything. And
Hmm.
by doing so, my experience has been so much better, mainly because I get to know a lot more people, and I'm not just restricted to, all right, I got 4 people. But even beyond that, dealing with mental health and my reluctancy of saying, all right, I don't want to ask for help. I don't want to be a burden, as you mentioned. Those are real feelings, and I feel like men heavily kind of feel the burden of, all right, I have to be this pillar, and if I dip at all, if Atlas shrugs, the world comes falling down around me. And of course, people looking up to me, they're like, bruh, I thought you were Superman. I'm like, bruh, I'm like this YouTuber who's talking about all this foolishness, but who has mental health issues at the same time. And so I feel like the balance is being willing to ask for help, because again, I had no clue. And of course, if God forbid something would happen, I'm like, where was the signs, Brad?
Yeah.
I don't know. So things like that, I try to preach on this channel, especially like just tell somebody, tell one person. Iron sharpeneth iron. So those kind of things that I've learned, especially since 2018, is like, all right, if I'm struggling, I gotta tell somebody. One person in this world needs to know, hit up Ray at least once a week. My boy in Florida, like it seems like all my best friends are named Mike. I'm like, he calls me at the most random times, but every time he does, it was usually being one of those moments where I was sitting there laying on my bed during lunch, just full uniform on, just looking at the ceiling. And he'd be like,
Hmm.
yo, you straight? And I'm like, nah, man. He's the person that kind of pushed me over the edge as far as getting out of the military. I'm like, bruh, if you don't like New Mexico, if you don't like Alaska, if you don't know where you're going next and you want to know where you're going next, get out the military. And then I'll
Right.
give him every excuse I gave him, he gave me back a solution. He was like, all right, next excuse. Well, I got a car note. And you're gonna have a car. You had a car note before you joined. You had a rent before you joined. You have more options. You have more experience. You have more knowledge, more wisdom. What is you have a YouTube channel now? You didn't have that before you joined. So like a lot of those things, just having one person to like, all right, yo, I'm struggling. Send a text, yo, uh, alarm red or something. and having
Mm.
somebody kind of push you in the right direction. That's definitely something that I'm glad I have now. And so hopefully anyone listening can, if you're in that place at all. I mean, I made a video on Chesley Chris, 30-year-old lawyer living in New York, former Miss USA, jumps from her balcony and kills herself. Those
Mm.
type of things should be preventable if at least one other human knows something about your situation. So um, I'm glad you're doing better, because yeah, death has luck, fortunately escaped me as far as people being close to me. I haven't dealt with any major deaths around me, and so I know it's going to come eventually. It's going to happen eventually, but yeah, that's not
Yeah,
something I'm
no.
prepared for mentally.
Yeah, and two, like not to go back to the deployment too much, but I think you had mentioned like me being in a lot of circles. I think that benefited me a lot more because
Mm.
one, I'm not very contrary to popular belief. Like I seem super extroverted. I'm not really. It's just people like me for whatever reason, and it's not to
Mm.
toot my own horn, but like for whatever reason, people gravitate towards me and they like me. So
Mm.
in turn, I turn extroverted just because that's just what it is. But the multiple friend group thing was a lot of balance. So like y'all were a lot more chill than the other
Mm.
nonsense. Like, or when I was with, that was a
Yeah.
more like relaxed environment because I know I'm finna go shoot darts. Like that
Mm.
is I'm relaxing. Like I'm talking shit, but I'm
Yeah.
not in the party atmosphere where I'm like yelling, screaming, and all this other
Yeah.
nonsense. So it's like having the, or even with Sedgley, like I'm about to,
Mm.
me and this man gonna
That's
be on
my
a Zoom
guy.
call. Hey, that's
Yeah.
my dog, man. We gonna be on a
Yeah.
Zoom call this weekend. Like me and him still talk to this day, and that's not somebody coming into the deployment. I thought like I'd ever talk to this guy again, but like
Mm.
through the deployment, like we actually became friends. So it's like the
Yeah.
multiple friends thing, I definitely think helped. It helped me a lot because I didn't have to. If I was constantly with the like upbeat nonsense, I wouldn't have made it through because that's not. I'm a lot more chill than I am going out. It's just if that's what my people are,
Sure. Sure.
I'm
Sure.
not gonna not have a good time. But
And,
yeah, no.
and luckily, I've been surrounded by people like yourself. And I mean, I've always kind of seen you as an extrovert, mainly because you have that next gear to go into. Like Thomas, the most dancingest fool you ever meet, the most singingest, just always on 10. She got that one AirPod in, and she's just going,
Man, I'm talking about
and
just
then
so.
just can't stop moving. And of course, if you see me on the dance floor, I'm like, bro, unless I'm on a basketball court, I don't know how to dance. So
Yeah.
like unless I'm doing sports, my body doesn't do all that extra stuff. Nor can it because I've tried. I've been to every club in DC. And like my body's just stiff as hell. And of course, dancing is like one of the most greatest expressions of freedom. So me being constantly up here, like, bro, I gotta find the beat, I gotta find the progression. What key are we in? Ooh, modulation, I like that. It's a pride thing, honestly, and it's something
Yeah.
I've reflected on. I've reflected on quite a bit. But I've been fortunate enough to have people around me that have that next gear that allows me to kind of create a new gear for myself. Because I feel like I made a video today about Asperger's, and I think I might be somewhat associated with that. Not that it's a cop out, but a lot of things that I see other people around me, like I see you or Thomas or Chris or my boy Chroma, like I see them going to the next gear. I'm like, where do they get that gear from? Because I don't seem to have that gear. I have an analytical mind. If there's a problem, I can that's what I'm geared towards, is like solving
Mm.
stuff. Um, but when it comes to just flowing, I'm like, I don't know how to flow outside of being productive. And so I've had to adapt in a lot of different ways. But people like yourself, it's people I study. And it sounds weird, but I study tendencies. I study body language. I study behaviors. And like when people hear like I might have autism, I might be, I might have Asperger's, whatever. They're like, well, you don't have this. I'm like, no, I studied. I read a book on body language by FBI agent, so now I can read if somebody's not interested in a conversation. Their feet are turned
Mm.
out. If their feet are not facing you, they're not interested in the conversation. If their
Mm.
body's facing away from you, they're not engaged. Stop talking about whatever you're arguing about, whatever evolutionary argument you're giving them right now.
It's
Leave
not
them
working.
be.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of those things that I've kind of picked up, even in my relationship. A lot of things that kind of came to the top as far as acknowledgement. A lot of things I was just missing. Like I love arguing. I love winning. I'll use a couple fallacies right here because she doesn't know the fallacies. So I'll bring the logical fallacy in and just subdue her with this argument. One thing I kind of realized is like, all right, it's not all about winning because at some point you're going to want peace. At some point you just, all right, this is not even that deep. Why are we arguing over the curtains and how far they come down? Does it matter? And so a lot of things like that I've come to learn. And even at age 29, I love learning. because it just makes the next 10 years that much easier.